friendos. So I guess you all want to hear about bunny bonding, which is pretty good for me. All right, so today I'm representing Orlando Rabbit Care and Adoptions. We're pretty, woo, that's one of my volunteers. We do a lot of bonding options, at least once or twice every other month. So today I'm going to talk about what you can do in the in-between stages bonding from home. So from nose boops to best buds, bunny bonding at home. Click. So just a little bit about Orca itself. We used to be a social and educational group way back in the day. It's been about 20 years we've been established. In 2006, it was formally incorporated and registered as a nonprofit, which is awesome. And we are primarily focused on education, domestic house rabbits as their care. But nowadays, we have begun our rescue operations. Since then, Orca has grown to be one of the largest rabbit rescues in the state of Florida. And we currently are foster-based with about 93 rabbits in rescue, which has changed. Now we are at 104 because we have a lot of brand new babies. Right, next. Just a little bit about me. So I found Orca at a bunny yoga event after moving to Florida about 8 years ago. I started volunteering at events, doing social media posts, lots of fosters. My house is a revolving door. School visits and bunny bonding. I became the volunteer coordinator, followed by the vice president. And then one day I woke up and suddenly I was the president. It was really weird how that happened. I do have two bonded mates right here, Switch and Peep. They are madly in love. I did not get to choose that. Peep climbed out of her pen and leapt into his and decided she was moving in. She was a foster, so I had to adopt her. I also do have two blue healers, Thor and Loki, who are madly in love with my bunnies. They think that's their herd. As you can see here, Peep, that's her second boyfriend, is Thor. She has leapt out of the pen to be with him, but he ran away, so she was a little heartbroken by that. Okay, go ahead. This was my original trio, which was part of a trio, 2 boys and 1 girl. This was Ryu, she passed at 11. And this was Batman, he passed at 9. But why do you want to bond your rabbits? Rabbits are very social creatures. A lot of times they love having a friend. It helps a lot with their emotional and physical health. They keep each other company throughout the day. They'll also groom each other, which helps a lot with like the ears, especially for our lop friends. Prevents all that loneliness like I was talking about. And sometimes they learn a lot of good behavioral benefits from each other, like litter box. You have a really messy bun, suddenly they're with a really clean bun, they start picking up on those habits. It can be the other way around, but you want to hope for the good ones. Some different types of our bonding. The one that I always opt for first is a male and female bond. It's kind of the easiest, especially if they're spayed and neutered, of course. You don't want to end up with even more. The next, I guess, easiest is a male-male bond, followed by a female-female. I will say female-female can be a little rough sometimes. Girls are very territorial. They can often have a lot more spunk and personality than some of our boys. Boys are a lot more docile, at least in my experience. And then, of course, we have our trio pluses. Like I said, I had a trio for about 6 years until the other 2 had passed, so it is possible. My recommendation with that is the one that I had, was just 2 boys and a female. Again, because of those girlies and their personalities. So some prerequisites. This is Bonnie and Clyde. I was bonding them in my house. Lucked out that they did in fact bond because of their names. So of course, our first thing we want to make sure both rabbits are spayed and neutered, and at least 2 to 4 weeks or so. First of all, those hormones. Second of all, a male can still get your female pregnant after a few more weeks, so you really got to wait for that all to dissipate before you attempt. Neutral space. This is the biggest importantest part, especially if you're bringing a new rabbit into your home that's already established with the other rabbit. I like to use a bathtub. I guarantee your rabbit's probably never been in there, and if they have, that's probably a problem. You just lay down a blanket so that they have a little bit of traction, stick them both in there, and you're also, you've got great eyes on them. You can get in there if you need to. Other options you can do is a pen in an area of the house that you've never been, which, again, could be the bathtub, the garage, someone else's house. I've also put rabbits in the back of a moving car. That trauma bond sometimes really gets them. Or alternatively, you can come to Orlando Rabbit Care and Adoptions bonding events where we have neutral spaces for all your rabbits. I do also recommend for some of our spicier rabbits, gloves. Sometimes I don't follow my own advice. Do as I say, not as I do. Longer sleeves, and in case, you could do a dustpan and a broom to kind of separate bonding, or separate the fights if they get really spicy. I was going to say, you probably recognize those too. So some common behaviors that you'll find when you're starting the bonding process are sniffing and some curious behaviors, like sitting there, like I said, the nose boops, they're sitting there and they're like, what are you? Especially if they've never seen the opposite gender or another rabbit in general before, they're like, there's more of you? What? I've never seen this. I will say, boys especially, when they see a girl for the first time, I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. Chinning is a great one, but it can also be a bad one if you think about it, because they're sitting there saying, okay, now you're mine. It could be a more possessive thing, or they'll do it to the pens around you. Chasing is very common, unfortunately, because, like I said, they're very excited. They're getting to know this new creature. Believe it or not, mounting doesn't have to be that bad of a thing. A lot of times it's a show of dominance, and I will tell you right now, more often than not, like 9 times out of 10, it's the girl doing it to the boy. Because the girls usually have that big personality, and they're trying to tell the boy that, no, I'm in charge. I will say I usually let mounting go for a little bit, unless it's the face, because I have seen the parts get bitten before when they're done. That's one of the worst things ever. Yeah, no, if it's the face, we're stopping that. Sometimes they do start urinating around because they're trying to mark their space. They're saying, like, no, get out of my space. Batting, of course, which you've seen before when they start fighting. But the greatest thing you can get is grooming. When they start kissing each other, you're like, oh my god. That's like one of the biggest signs that they're like really into one another. Cuddling, laying together, flopping is another great one. The best thing you can get with a very first interaction, besides like the grooming behavior, is just no fighting. Just chill. I'll take it. So these are kind of some of the dates. This is one of the dates that I've done over at Orca. You want to kind of make sure the space is small enough so you can control the interaction. You don't want them to have too much space where they can run around or get it out of the way. What I like to do when they first get in the pens is I'll pet both rabbits and start swapping their scents on each other, kind of mixing it so that they already get used to like, oh, this is all over me. You do allow the rabbits to approach one another. They're not going to figure out if they like each other if they're on the opposite sides of the pen. I do like to have snacks or treats on hand just in case, so that they associate like those good behaviors and those, good sensations with each other. Be prepared to separate fights if they do happen. Like sometimes it just starts out of nowhere. So you just got to make sure that you're really self-aware. I do this thing called force cuddles. It's where I take them both and I put them like right between my legs and I smush them together and I just pet them both at the same time. And I force them into like a cuddle and they're like, oh, hello. And sometimes they're like, oh, and that's all they need. Stress bonding is like a term that I've seen a lot. When I was talking about in the back of a moving car, I've also heard one of my adoption foster coordinators, she's put both of her rabbits in a carrier together and walked around the house. And it worked. And also always stop on a high note. Like if you're like doing really, really well, they're sitting together, they're kissing, they're grooming, it's been like 10-15 minutes. It's a great time to take a break because they're probably exhausted and stressed and they're done too. So some expectations. Oh, this is Marion Sprite. You want to keep the pens near each other so that they get used to seeing and smelling each other. So this would be like, we had some really good initial behaviors. We want to try to make this work. So the pens are near each other, not directly next to each other, because sometimes they will nip at each other through the pens or squat each other, but close enough. I love to swap the litter boxes, toys, blankets, that sort of stuff, so that they get used to those smells again. Especially the litter boxes. You know how animals are. They're very particular about their poop. I don't know. So, like, you want to make sure that they're getting used to that as well. It could take several weeks or months. It all depends on the rabbit and their personality. Like I said, Peep, it took her, like, 3 hours. But for my trio, it took me about, like, two months to do all 3 of them together. There will be setbacks, it's not linear sometimes. Sometimes they're madly in love, and then the next day, the girl is deciding, actually, I don't want him anywhere near me. It happens. But you want to also give them equal amounts of attention so that one isn't feeling left out. That way also they get used to smelling each other on you because you're probably like their most important human. Work with the rabbits at least 15 minutes each day. That's usually what I recommend in the beginning stages. 10 to 15 minutes, again, ending on those high notes until they get used to each other, and then you can make those dates longer and longer. And, sometimes it happens. Not all rabbits are fit for one another. Some rabbits don't even want another human. I know our lovely volunteer over there had a foster for a long time. Her name was Ladybug. She had a big old litter, and then she decided, never again, no more rabbits. Once you're a mom, she's like, empty nest, I'm good. That's it. we tried, but. So one of the biggest, bestest parts is when they get to move in together. So some best buddy behaviors, like I was talking about, grooming, nuzzling, napping, eating together. Eating together is also a great one because, as you know, rabbits are prey animals. So if they feel safe enough to eat next to each other or sleep together, that's awesome. I like to start with the enclosure a little smaller, again, just in case, so I can kind of keep a little more control, and then, you know, expand it out to their big, beautiful area. Now, my rabbits, they have their own bedroom in my house. You include boxes, toys, etc., all their favorite things from both pens. So again, everything's mixed up. And the biggest, most exciting one is when they get to have their first sleepover. I've made like fun little events out of this. It is recommended to at least, you know, try to pay a little bit of attention, maybe wake up every few hours, make sure there's nothing going on, or have a camera of some sort. But that'll be like the biggest obstacle is, can they make it through the night together, nice and safe? And then after they are bonded, do try to keep them together to avoid the bond breaking. So even if they're going to the vet, I often recommend that you take the bonded pair like together. Even if it's only one half, still bring them with them so that they're together. So yeah, I know I went kind of fast, but I'm Stevie. Here's all of my contact information. Here is my Menace to Society peep. Do you guys have any questions for me? Says I took a photo.
I have an older bunny who his companion died.
Yeah.
Is it better younger bunny, older bunny? He's 9.
Yeah.
So he's sort of.
Yeah, I get that because actually Switch, he, like I said, he was the youngest of the 3. He's 6. Peep is 2. Granted, I didn't choose that, but like, you can do older rabbits so that they're around the same age. If you want to do the younger, you just have to be ready for that, you know.
The I tried to bond mine to a baby.
Oh, gotcha. Were they fixed yet?
Oh yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. But there was fur.
Oh, yeah.
Big chunks of fur.
Yeah.
Ash was standing on top of her with her back like this.
So not the one for them.
Yeah.
So maybe an older rabbit might be the better choice because like the personality and like that might be more along the same side of each other. Were they the dominant one or the submissive one in their previous pair?
It was difficult to say because they didn't spend a lot of time together. It was a boy-boy bond.
Oh, which is...
And it may have been, they may have been roommates. They may not have been bonded. Yeah, because they really didn't groom each other a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The one spent a lot of time on the second floor of a condo.
Oh, okay.
The other wouldn't set foot in the condo.
Okay.
So
they were more like tolerating each other.
roommates.
Yeah, roommates. Yeah, less bonded. Okay. So maybe like an older girlie might do some good then.
Can I ask a little bit more about how Orlando handles maybe that? Like, I've come in and I haven't owned rabbit and I'm looking to find a bonded pair. Again, not every rabbit loves every other rabbit. So kind of navigating as a shelter organization, how do you handle that?
So sometimes we have people come multiple times, especially if the rabbit has never interacted with another rabbit before. Sometimes, like, especially a lot of the boys, like I said, when they meet that female for the first time, they kind of lose their minds. So sometimes it takes the second or third time they've come to us with their rabbit before, like, we can kind of figure out what works best for that bunny. Especially, when they're still younger or they're still figuring out that there are other rabbits and how to rabbit with each other. And we have lots of females right now, so we try to rotate in and out.
Do you do everything at your center, or do you kind of give the guidance to the members of the public and
Both.
the adopters?
Yeah, so you would bring like bunny to us at bonding, and we have it in a neutral space. It's actually at an office. That way there's no other sense anywhere. And then, if we see something that looks a little promising, usually we'll give them the bonder's number, so like my number, and then one of the foster adoption coordinators, and we kind of all work together so that they can continue like these sort of dates and stuff like that at home to make sure that everything lasts. And if it doesn't work out, they bring the bunny back to us. If they want to try again with a different bunny, we're willing to do that too.
You do like a foster to adopt?
We do. Mm-hmm.
have you ever come across any that just don't want to bond at all? And
Yes.
just
Hers.
decide they
Hers.
She went like 6 times. She was so over it. She she wanted no part of any other rabbit ever.
and that's okay then, right?
It happens, yeah.
Yeah,
Because my
She
daughter has
she
one
was
that
a
says-
mother, and I think
Yeah.
that might have had something to do with it. I have seen that before, where some of our mothers that have come into the rescue after giving birth, especially maybe multiple litters, they're like, no more. Especially other boys, they're like, you did this to me.
Any tips for potentially bonding two pairs that are already established, or is there too much of a risk breaking the bond on either side?
I think it's possible. Are they both male or male female?
Male, female, male.
What I would try to do first is take the opposite male and the opposite females and do it like cross that way, and then introduce everyone together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's one of the males just wants to be friends with everybody. I mean, we fostered
Get
before,
that too.
and he's just like, send me
I
in the
love
cage.
friends.
I want everything.
Usually it's the girlies that I've always found are the
We don't-
problems. Yeah, so that's why I always say, like, if it's going to be a multiple, always start with the girls, because they're going to be your biggest hurdles.
What do you do if you had a bonded pair but they broke up?
So you can try going through the bonded process again, which can be kind of a long and tiring process. I have had to do it before, but sometimes if it's broken, it is broken. But we try not to, because as you know, rabbits can get so depressed without their partners. That they can have health issues or even pass, which is what happened to one of my boys. So.
Because there's like a gate separating them, but they're always next to each other,
Mm-hmm.
like all the time. But if I put them together, I don't know why they just don't seem to want to get along, like physically
Yeah.
together.
I would try restarting the bonding process from the ground up.
Okay.
Neutral space, swapping everything. Yeah, start over. Unfortunately, I know it's long and it's tedious.
Do you have any tips on bonding a rabbit that's feisty?
Yes.
Female to male?
Yes.
We have gotten them. My male is free roam. He's 3.5. He's never been bonded. My female, we just got sight unseen adopted through Orlando Rescue. She wasn't with you, but I went for you guys.
Oh yeah. Okay.
She's fixed, but very, very feisty. And if my husband and I are both with them, petting them for 5 minutes, they'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the other day, for no reason, in the middle of this, she turned and bit my male's cheek and would not let go.
So Switch actually, it's his downy ear. He actually has a notch in that ear because my female Ryu, she didn't think she was a rabbit. She thought she was a small human, and she actually bit him. She also bit my dogs, the rabbit. So yes, I have been in the Rocky. She's feisty. What I actually started doing with first was kind of like the swapping first. Like kind of like secretly adding the smells in so that when we have
litter box,
Yep.
dishes, blankets,
Yep, all that.
toys,
Yep.
all of that. Yeah.
You could try the car, putting them in 2 separate crates facing each other in the car, drive around the block, and then try doing some of like the petting and all that, like, look guys, see, like that association. So you can try that because those spicy girls, I know how they are.
She nipped me this morning.
Ooh.
Because she smelled him on me, so she nipped me. So I'm like,
Yeah. She's spicy too, but in a different way. I took her to a brewery and she tried to knock the beers over.
I am an alpha male.
Oh, unusual.
We got him 10 days before we got her.
Mhm.
She bit her nose.
Oh, yeah.
It was at night.
Yeah.
I know it was, but
Yeah.
I check on them every couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
We have the bunny cams,
Mm-hmm.
everything. How do I prevent that?
From the nipping in the middle of the night? Because you would say they're bonded or?
Totally bonded.
Interesting.
They were from the SPCA.
Oh, okay.
They were next to one another, so the bonding didn't take that long.
I wonder, do you know if there's any other health issues at all?
But I did. We had to wait 10 days because she had problems with her eyes.
Gotcha.
And so she didn't come in the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had him 5 months.
Okay. Because I have to wonder if maybe he was trying to groom her eyes at all. And she was like, don't do that. And then he got mad and bit her. Because sometimes, like health problems, they like try to help each other. And
He would chase her into the pen.
Oh.
That's about all they would do.
Okay.
She'd have to get her eye drops and stuff, but that's all completed.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something new.
Yeah, that is very new. I would kind of try some of those neutral spaces to kind of just see what they look like outside of like that space to kind of monitor that.
They have almost all range of the house.
Okay, yeah.
Except for wires and things.
Well, yeah. Well, I hope. We all did. Yeah. Okay. I would see some of those neutral spaces again just to kind of see what the behaviors look like outside of that. And then maybe take her to the vet and see like if there was any other health anything like that, just to make sure that everything was cleared up, just to just that 1 hour. Because like I said, sometimes I try to help each other and then get mad at each other because they're like, don't help me.
He's very jealous, like
Oh.
he wants to be petted all the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he might have gotten mad at her maybe if she didn't groom him back. Which is also possible.
Well, they groom one another.
Mm-hmm. He sounds like a piece of work.
If I have one bunny who has a very, it's a toy that he loves.
Mm-hmm.
He really loves.
Is it a stuffy?
No, it's a box. It's a cat box.
Oh.
But he likes to go in it and lay down. He's always laying in it. When I'm bonding, should I take that out because it's very specifically his?
Yeah. We can bring it back later, but we're gonna be
Or have
protective.
two of them and
Yeah, that's gonna be our box. Don't touch our box. Yeah, like those special toys. Yeah. And when you swap things, maybe after a few dates, you can try putting our special box in the other pen, and then reintroduce it. Because it's so particular to them, but after a few dates, I wouldn't do it right away because we might get sprays on it, and yeah, that'll defeat the purpose.
Okay.
That's right.